everyone, and welcome to the seventh live broadcast of Conversation with Cal, a series presented by the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are happy to have you all here. My name is Maria, and I am a small business specialist at the OSDBU office. I want to make a few comments before I introduce my boss, who will be introducing today's guest. First of all, you'll notice that if you're not a presenter for this event, both your microphone and camera are muted and cannot be unmuted. Conversation with Cal will be recorded and uploaded to our website. In the interest of time, there will be no question and answer session. However, we still want your feedback. If you have any suggestions about topics you'd like to hear more about, specific questions you like answered in future session, or individuals you like to hear from as a small business, shoot us an email at small.business@ed.gov, and we will be happy to consider the content for this series. Please keep in mind that all iteration of these series will be interview-based in nature. You may submit questions through the chat during the event, but we may or may not present them based on timing and flow. Questions not answered today may be answered in a follow-up event. Now that you have a better understanding of how this project will run, let's begin. I'd like to introduce you all to my boss, Mr. Calvin Mitchell Jr. He's going to introduce you to today's guest of honor. Take it away, Calvin.
Hey, thank you, Samira, and thank you so much, Maria, for being here. Miss Maria is a managing partner of AMA Consulting. She's a highly sought-after consultant, trainer, facilitator, and executive coach that helps leaders and groups uncover blind spots and unleash their already existing greatness. With over 16 years of experience, Maria's expertise focuses on organizational development and leadership. Her wealth of experience has been a great resource for civilian and defense agencies, as well as federal contractors. Prior to starting AMA Consulting, Maria led a team of academic advisors at the University of Maryland University College, worked at Federal Emergency Management Agency as a management analyst for the Economic Recovery Program, and managed a portfolio of over 100 firms for the U.S. Small Business Administration. Maria leads a team that helps organize, create, and implement practical strategies to achieve their mission and navigate through tough problems and increase their performance. I would like to welcome to Conversation with Cal, Miss Maria. How you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for the invitation, Cal. I appreciate, and Maria is fine, by the way. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. Thank you so much, and welcome everybody to today's podcast. I'm looking forward to just engaging here today.
So, for those who are not familiar, this is something we decided to put on to really reach the real question, the real burning question that surrounds almost every small business that we meet from day to day is: how do you become successful? How do you get your start? What's the best way to get out there? And those who know federal contracting know that it is extremely weird. I don't know any other way to say it. The laws and regulations are very different. So here we have a platform where we can talk about it, interview a successful small business owner, and shine some light. So in hopes that that you may learn something, that you're inspired. We have a mix of people who are thinking about starting a business, all the way up to people who have established businesses and want to learn from others. So Maria, one thing that wasn't in your bio. Is that your mother? And I admire you for being a rock star mom and a shero. Can you tell me how many kids you have?
I love it that we're going right there, Cal. I am a mom of four, 15. The eldest was just 15 2 days ago on the 24th. 12, 7 and 4. So I like to tell people that, raising my kids is what I do full time. And, running the business, I do it around raising my kids. So yeah, I have 4 children. The interesting thing is when I started the business 11 years ago, it was 2, and they were 4 and 2 at the time. And now it's 4, 2 boys and 2 girls. I am phenomenally blessed. They are my world. And like I said, that's what I do full time. And so, yeah, it has been an interesting journey, navigating motherhood, and growing a business at the same time. And I'm so grateful to you, Cal, for starting there, because I think that a lot of us, what does it really mean when you say you're a woman-owned small business? You know, it's very different. It's a different experience. It's a different set of expectations. It's a different journey. It's a different set of obstacles. It's actually a different skill set as well. Because as women, nurturers, mothers, there are things that we do, that we pick up, that we take on, that no one else is going to take on.
Right.
So that's just the reality. So I see, my ladies in the chat cheering me on. I appreciate you all, women, phenomenal women who are daring greatly and are audacious and bold enough to step out there and say, hey, I'm going to do this thing, whether it's starting my business or, growing in my career or just fulfilling purpose and destiny, in addition to being a woman, uh, a wife, and a mother, which those 3 things are actually 3 separate full-time jobs, but I'm gonna leave it at that.
So Maria, so I want to start from the beginning, right? Because you started a business when you had 2 little ones, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about from the beginning. Let's talk about you. It sounded like you had a good federal job, just like I have, and I'm enjoying my good federal job. But
Yeah.
something inside of you changed. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you started your business? Because there are people who are thinking about starting businesses or had just started business. Could just talk about what made you start your business.
Yeah. So I think for me, I've always been entrepreneurial. It runs in my family. My grandmother was, I'm originally from Nigeria, West Africa.
Oh,
My
nice.
grandmother was a
Oh,
trader.
wait. We gotta talk jollof rice.
Ah!
We got to talk about fresh fish stew, the fish stew, which is one of my favorite dishes.
Fresh fish stew. Oh my God, yes. Listen, I'm literally have stuff on the stove as we're doing this. So and that's what I have on the stove. It's funny that you would say that.
So look, Maria. All right, so we're gonna digress a little bit. So I have a lot of friends that are Nigerian, and my one friend who's Nigerian, his wife is American, and they had a nice Nigerian spread at the wedding. And he's like, have you ever had Nigerian food before? And I was like, no, but like I love all food. And he says, Calvin, all of Africa is full of beautiful people, but our food is the best. So
Yes.
I'm like, okay, all right, well, that's a big place. So if you saying that's the best, I ate so much food. My wife looked at me and she was like, "This is embarrassing. Like, you can't go back for another plate, Calvin." And I had my plate full, and it wasn't a paper plate, so I could pack it on. But yeah, so we'll talk food another day, okay?
Okay. Okay. I'm here for that.
So going back to your start, So
Yeah, so I was just saying that I've always been very entrepreneurial. So my grandmother was a trader. My mom was a professional dentist and a trader at the same time. She sold jewelry. So even when I was in college, I would go to New York and go to Canal Street and get the purses and the jewelry and bring it on campus and sell. I
wow,
mean, I was a licensed real estate agent from when I was a junior in high school. I mean, I love the idea of economic independence and just being able to create something and do something for yourself, use your gifts, use your talents. I mean, when I was in college, I also braided hair. So I've always had that entrepreneurial kick, if you will. But, getting married and having kids, I wanted some stability and flexibility and good benefits. I went into the government.
Yeah,
However, and, who you are is who you are.
that's right.
And, after a while in the government, I started to get that buzz again. And I was looking at some consulting opportunities in addition to my government job. But I'm very serious about what I said earlier, that what I do full time is raise my children. It's very important to me that, I'm not just nurturing, but I'm instilling values. I'm teaching, I'm guiding, I'm directing, I'm correcting, I'm shaping, because I believe like your children are the next generation. And
Right.
so for me, I started to struggle with the demands of a full-time job and playing that role as an active mother and parent. And so I was just struggling. I remember one day, I would, same thing, we're just talking about commute. I live in Bowie, Maryland, so I would take the metro to Largo Town Center and then metro into DC to 15th Street where our office was at the time, and then walk to the metro. And I will always be late to pick up my daughter from daycare. She was always the last person because we'll leave the office at 5. You know how things happen. Sometimes 5:30
Yeah,
still there, and
yeah.
they close at 6. And I remember my daughter at 4 years old, and she said, "Mommy, all you do is work and cook, work and cook. You don't even know me." And
Wow.
that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I said, something has to change. And so initially, I started the business so that I could have that flexibility to work around raising my kids, not raise my kids around a job. That
Wow.
was the
And
initial
how key
plan.
and how important is that, Maria, right? Because, I will say one thing about COVID is we realize how incredibly busy we are for no reason, right? We're always on the move, we're always doing something, especially in the DC area, right? We're always going, going, going. And it's amazing. I have two little ones. My son is 8 and my daughter is 6 going on 66 because but she is one of those old souls, right? And with the little precious face, she'll just tell me things, and the same thing. It's just like they just say things that like you might be thinking, or you may be challenged with, and they just say it just because out of the kid's mouth is a lot of honesty, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so, and that's how it started. And I initially started with supporting small business federal contractors because, like you said, like you read in my bio, I came from SBA, so I knew the small business programs, I knew contracting. And so I was helping, small businesses develop their strategy to sell to federal government, helping them with getting certified with 8A certification or GSA schedule. But then by profession, I'm an organizational development consultant and executive coach. And so I started being pulled on contracts, with companies that I had helped and business owners that I had worked with, to support training, provide training, or to coach, or to support a strategic planning project. And then from there, I used to attend a lot of events. I was the events queen. Every single where there was a small business events, I was there.
Yeah.
Um, because, I want to say this, and this is not to negate anybody's story or experience. Some people get into government contracting, Cal, and their buddy from high school is a CIO somewhere, or their friend from when they served together is now, a top person somewhere at DOD,
Right.
and their church member or somebody's a parent from their school, their kids go to this really fancy school, a parent from their school is a division director, and they
Right.
have this connection. I did not have that.
Wow.
So it was boots on the ground. Here I am, an immigrant that has worked my way, had my bachelor's degree, had my master's degree, started a career in government, and I'm going into government contracting with just starting from the ground up. So how I built relationship was going to those events.
Hold on, Maria. Hold on. Because you said a whole mouthful there, because there are so many that I know is going to resonate with your story. But before we even go there, so you got a good government job. You got what did hubby say when you said, you know what, I'm gonna leave this good government job and start a business?
He said, "Are you well? Are you okay?" No, he didn't say that. He was surprised, but Well, he knows the woman he married, that she's,
Right.
defiant in a good way. And I was very clear about what I wanted out
Neutral.
of life. And I was not going to compromise, because I felt like my kids' formative years, I could never get back. I could
Yeah.
always go back to the government. But he was surprised, but then I think he knew that I would do well, because
Yeah.
he knows me. Yeah.
And how important is it to have that support system where you have someone
Yeah.
in your corner. And so just quick, how did the conversation go? Hey babe, I feel like I'm gonna leave this good government job and start something new. Like, how did
And
that
he
go?
said, why? And he said, why? And of course, he tried to talk me out of it. He said, we can work it out. We
Right.
can work out, with the kids, we can get it. And I try to explain to him, it's about what my presence. It's not about hiring someone else to raise my kids. It's about my presence. And that I felt like there was something nudging me out there. There was something out there for me. And this was the time to do it. And I was, I had to make the case that, I can always go back to government,
Yeah.
but let me seize this opportunity right now, because as soon as I started, things started to move very quickly. One of the things that I will share is I used to teach classes for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, the Women Business Centers, and the Small Business Development Centers. I was doing trainings in College Park, in Frederick, in Southern Maryland. So I
Hold on,
started
hold
to
on, hold
get,
on, hold on. So you lived in Bowie.
yeah.
You were driving to Southern Maryland
Hmm.
and Frederick, which is a good ways away. How much did they
Yeah.
pay you to do those trainings?
Nothing, $0 and 0 cents.
So
But
so why'd you do it?
because I had to put myself out there. My mentality was, if I go out there and do the trainings and I showcase my expertise to these small businesses who were coming in here to PTAC, PTAC could only offer them support, but for so long, they would eventually become clients. And that's exactly what happened. So
Wow.
that's how I built a following. And then people knew me, and then my name was going round and round. And people needed to be 8A certified, people needed proposals, people needed contract support. But it was from that. And I just really want to buttress that point a little bit, because I think sometimes people struggle with, what is my starting point?
Right.
And your starting point is your gift, is what you have in your hand right now.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it was that I just used what I had. Like I said, I didn't have that good old boy network and those very, very high connected friends, but I did have my intellect, and I had my ability to communicate, and I had the fact that I was a trainer, so I could take very complex materials, you know, um, 13 CFR 124, FAR Part 9, and break it down and explain these things to small businesses. And they were like, oh, yeah, we want her to work with us. And that's how I just started. And like I said, from supporting government contractors, started to get called on supporting contracts for training, for strategic planning. And then one day, a lady on here, Marcella Coverson, I'm attending a small business event at Department of Education, and she says, Maria, why don't you go get your schedule? If you get your schedule, you can get training work, because Ed puts all their training work on the schedule. I
No,
said,
wait, no, wait.
okay.
How did you know Miss Coverson? How did you meet Maria?
So me and Miss
How
Coverson
did you
go
meet
way back.
Marcella?
Me and Marcella go way back. So when I was at SBA, she and I used to work together to support 8A contractors.
Mm,
So I used to approve the 8A sole source awards. When I left SBA and started my own business, we kept in touch.
mm,
But it was just like, she really didn't know what I was doing. But it was when I kept attending those events, we reconnected. And
mm-hmm.
then she realized, oh, okay, if you're really going to do this, then you need to go get your schedule. So Marcella put that buzz in my ear, and I said, okay, well, GSA schedule, what does that take? And I'm looking it up. And of course, there are people who charge an arm and a leg, but because I knew contracting and I knew how to write proposals, I did my schedule myself.
Wow.
And I got my GSA schedule in 6 months.
Wow. 6 months. That's
Yeah,
pretty good.
yeah. So And so that was it. And I started responding to bids that will come out on eBay. And my first government contract as a prime, I had worked on subcontracts, was with the department, doing a 1-day training for the Office of English Language Acquisition, OELA. I'll never forget it.
Wow. So hold on. So let me back up. So Marcella Coverson, for those who don't know, is one of our small business specialists. I call her our one of our original specialists. She's been around a long time. Heart of gold and so much knowledge, and I'm glad that she was able to inspire you. But it's also a testament to how you can use and leverage a small OSDBU small business specialist to help you navigate the agency, right? Because if you didn't know that GSA schedule was a big tool that the Department of Education used for training, you may not have been in the position to even get that first contract. So I want to go back. So you started originally before
Yes,
the schedule. You started by working with other businesses, right?
yes, yes,
And so most of those most of those contacts and those leads came from your work at the PTAC, right?
yes.
And so that's something else that folks should know. One, the PTAC is a good is a good free resource, but it's also a good place because they help you with networking, they help you with getting on schedule and several other things that they do. So the other thing that I thought that was really good that you said is that you leverage your relationships to build your business. So now let's go back to I love that you said your starting point is your gift. Your starting point is your gift, and there are probably some who are wondering what that might be for them. And I think it's evident you knew what that was, right? But you really expanded your portfolio, right? Because first you went from a training aspect, then you went back into like maybe more organization management or organizational development, maybe I guess would be the word, and you really evolved. So here's one thing that we don't often talk about. Um, where did you get the money to start? Did you go to a bank? Did you have a lender? Was it a 401k? Do you mind me asking, how did you get started? Like what was like what how did you start?
Yes, I will answer that question. That question goes like this. But I'll come to the question. I just want to buttress a point you made earlier about PTAC, SBDC, the OSDBU offices. A lot of times in the GovCon space, you hear people understate the small business office or OSDBU or PTAC and say, well, you can't really get, you just need to go talk to the program. You just need to go talk to the program. Well, you can't get to the program without these people. And these relationships are very key. I'll share with you that DC PTAC, Sheila Edmondson, Vanessa Kadiri, those ladies have known me from when I first started.
Wow.
And do you know that till today, they submit my name for speaking engagements. They advocate for me. So it's beyond just getting the next dollar or getting the next contract. When you cultivate relationships with people, they will it will keep paying forward.
Yeah.
So I don't play with those ladies and with people like Marcella, Javette, Samira, uh, Ed, and then other agencies too that we work with, because they are the gatekeepers and they really do a lot for small businesses. And I feel like sometimes they're overlooked. I just
Mm.
want to say that. Now, to your point about financing. So when I first started, I cleaned out my entire TSP because
Wow.
I don't have like a trust fund or anything where there was millions and millions of dollars waiting for me to go start my business. But I quickly learned that I needed to be financially astute. And simply, it's a simple principle: feed what's feeding you. So
Mm.
from very early on, every single dime I made, I invested back into the business, whether it was hiring, And I remember one of my very first clients when I was supporting federal contractors, Linda Curtin. She's the CEO of Muse Technologies. She retired as the CIO of NASA. And she said, one thing I learned from you, Maria, was that from the very beginning, you invested in hiring staff, even if it was just part-time, even if that was all I could afford. I was very particular about investing in the business, building our infrastructure, having a IT, getting a very good website from the beginning, hiring somebody part-time, like having HR processes and things in place. I think it was partly due to my background as a consultant, and I had worked in consulting firms, and anything internally within organizations came naturally to me, and business also sort of came naturally to me because of my MBA and my experience to business as a whole. But that was the principle that I used for finances. So once my TSP was gone, I and again, shout out to my husband because he was holding down all the bills. I was like
Right.
making no money, zero money, but it was some personal sacrifices I had to make. I had cut my hair down low and I was just rocking a very short afro. I couldn't
Like,
get
oh,
the
I was gonna
weave.
say, I didn't know
No, it
if you
wasn't quite like
still
that.
had the
It
Calvin
wasn't quite
going.
like that. But I cut my hair. I was just driving my old car. I couldn't afford to get a new car. I was like living on a very slim budget because I was building. I
Right.
was building. So funds from the TSP expired. Thankfully, by then I started getting revenue. But I also want to talk about a relationship with your banker. So I'm with M&T Bank, and my banker is Janine Graham. Janine has known me for 20 years. I
Wow.
was with M&T before M&T was with M&T, Provident Bank. And with my story, you start to see a theme reoccurring is that I value people a lot. I value people a lot. And I don't have a lot of relationships, but the ones that I have are deep. So Janine has known me from when it was Provident Bank. Like I said, I've always had a business account because I was always selling something, whether it was bags and shoes from New York or home security systems or real estate. Anywho, when I started this business from day one, she told me, Maria, you need 2 years of tax returns before you can get a line. And I will do anything in my power to make you get a line, but you got to fix this, that, because I had some issues on my credit. So
Wow. Hold on,
part
hold on,
of
hold on. She actually gave you feedback to help you to get your credit intact so that you could
yes,
be in the right position.
yes, she did. She coached me and she told me what I needed to do. And I went and I did it. I worked on it. So as the money was coming in, I was fixing stuff I needed to fix on my credit, paying off some debt, getting myself together, and making sure that my balance sheet looked good. I wasn't drawing out money so that I could get that line. And
Wow.
let me tell you, underwriters are human beings. They are not this scary thing because nobody ever sees an underwriter. So Janine was telling the underwriters, I know her. She's good. She's good people's. She's not gonna, So she spoke to the underwriter and actually got my line with only 1 year of tax returns. And my first line
Wow.
of credit was $25,000.
Wow.
And with that, we've built from 25 to $500,000 in a line of credit. And I use it only for payroll. And as soon as I get paid from the government, I pay right away. It's also about your principles, like pay your people. If you work with 1099s, the people who work with me, as soon as that invoice hit from the government, they're getting paid in 2 or 3 days, sometimes even before. And it's the same thing with the line. When I was requesting an increase, the manager of small business programs at M&T Bank, Pam, she called me and she says, I'm looking at your history and you rarely pay interest because you use it and before 30 days you pay back. I said, yes, that this is just a cushion for payroll, but I'm really building my business so that I can have equity because my goal from the beginning was to build to sell. So those principles matter a lot. Feed what's feeding you.
Right.
Um, Set aside a time to invest and be willing to, you know, to to be a minimalist or like reduce your expenditure. It pays off better in the future. So I mean, we're at a place now in the business where we're not struggling financially. We're not struggling to make payroll. Let me tell you, I know companies who are saying they're doing 10 million, 12 million, and every other Friday the company owner is almost passed out having a heart attack because meeting payroll is hard. I
Well,
never wanted to be that person. So from the beginning, how you started from the beginning matters, that you have those financial pillars in place so that you don't have to worry about that.
wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. I love what you said. Feed what's feeding you. right? And really
Yes.
investing in your people, right? Investing in the business, and so the business will grow. So let's talk about that first contract. A lot of people are like, okay, how did you get your first contract? And your first contract, we talked about. So your first business contract was with other businesses, but what
Yes.
was your first federal contract?
So my first federal contract, I still remember to this day when I got the email saying awarded. And I was like, oh my goodness, I was so excited because, you submit a proposal. And let me tell you, I had written so many proposals and never won anything. So
Wow.
persistence and patience is important, and realize that regardless of what business or what industry you're in, you have to put in your 10,000 hours. There's a book by Malcolm Gladwell, David and Goliath, and he talks about it takes 10,000 hours for you to achieve mastery. I think we live in a generation where people want to practice. And so I had to reframe my mind that those denials, those non-awards was my practice. It was my, it's just like my almost 4 years of providing free training to SBDC and PTAC was my 10,000 hours of practice. You can't, there's no shortcut to it. You can't avoid it. So even if you're not winning proposals, keep writing, keep putting it out there, keep responding to sources sought, keep going to meetings, keep doing capability briefings, because it's OJT, on the job training. You keep getting better on it, and eventually one is going to click. One thing I would say that was always tripping me up in proposals is I did not know how to price. So coming from industry, I was always pricing trainings per person, however many dollars per person, if they say there are 25 people in the training. But on the government side, training is priced per day. I did not know that. I learned that from feedback that I received from proposals that were not successful. So when I finally got that one contract, I remember it to this day. I was sitting right here in my living room and that email came, and I used to be so anxious. I used to refresh my emails every second. I couldn't separate my personal life from work, because now I had quit this good government job. I let my benefits go. And if this was not successful, I was going to be doomed. So I had a lot of anxiety. I was always checking my emails. And when that email came and it says awarded partnership training, or ELA, I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, so this is real. This is really happening.
Wow.
And, I poured my heart into it. I had a phenomenal consultant who did the training. We went above and beyond. We did the kickoff. We engaged with the program director. It was in person. We delivered the training. We even did like a extra report after the training, just to give them next steps of what to do beyond what we did in the training, to help with their logic models and partnerships with grantees. And that was now past performance, which you need past performance to be a government contractor. The government is not going to try out on you. They're not going to test with you. Government is risk averse, is taxpayer dollars, and that was the thing we kept hearing. So now I had this past performance, and from there it just started to happen. Then we won another leadership development program with NASA, again through the schedule, and we just started to win stuff. Because once I figured out the pricing, and I also, through my networks, I built a cadre of trainers and consultants. So people now knew that Maria has trainers. I'll tell you a quick story. So there was a training BPA that came up out of one of the parks at Ed. It was 8A. We did a capability briefing. We were not selected. And ANC was selected. They won, they got the award. Then they come to me and say, Maria, we know you have the trainers.
Wow.
And so we ended up subbing and doing all that work. And it was for OESC. And when I started, I just want to find out, I'm like, okay, so why we presented, and why were we not? And she said, well, it was a thing about the 8A contractor that we had before had a lot of issues paying people, no infrastructure. And so we didn't want to go with a smaller firm again. We just wanted a more established 8A.
Wow.
So I say all this to say it matters that people view you as a company that has not just the technical expertise, but the business infrastructure to execute on contracts. And so, yeah, so we just started to go from there. And then how we transitioned into We have 3 lines of service. So like you said, organizational effectiveness, that's all the training, leadership development stuff, strategy work. That's where we started. And then we grew into program support, specifically with school readiness and K through 12 programs, because primarily we've been working with ed and public health. So we had a contract with FDA, CDC, Office of Minority Health. And then on the IT side, our first major 8A contract was at OCIO, and it was for accessibility, again, through the same means of responding to sources sought. And we partnered with the prime and we got awarded that work. So then we continue to build our bench in the accessibility space and the information management space. And, we've just stayed within those 3 core areas of business. That's another thing, is one of the best things that you can do for yourself as a business owner is not only knowing what you are called to, but what you are not called to. I struggled so much to be like other companies, to be an IT company, to be like this company, because, let's be honest, we're human beings, and you see people doing certain things and getting success, and you think, well, maybe that's what I should do too. But I had to realize that my own journey was unique. You have to settle into yourself and be okay with your own pace and with your own journey, and not compare yourself to others, and be authentic. And so we've just settled in those 3 areas of business. So organizational effectiveness, program success, specifically doing grants and TA work and program evaluation and operational support, meeting facilitation for public health and education programs. And on the IT side, we focused on information management. So 508 compliance, records management, accessibility, document management, anything information management. That's it. And so we're not a cybersecurity company. We are not a construction company. We're not all of that. But the things that we do, we are going to have depth in it, more so than being spread out and be a jack of all trades, which is, some companies do that, and but that's not me.
And you know what I always say is, you can't be a jack of all trades because you're a master of none, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I always tell companies, what is your core competency? What is a thing that I always use baseball's analogy because I'm a big sports fan. What is the pitch? Is it a breaking ball? Is it a fastball? What is the pitch that every time it comes down the strike zone that you're going to knock it out the park? That's what you got to lead with. That's what you got to lead with. Maria, you said so much that I wanted to circle back around on. Some of which is, a lot of times people don't realize that you got to have more than one strategy in terms of a capture strategy for getting work. A lot of times, you said that you put in a lot of proposals. I'm going to go back to the food analogy. I remember there's a restaurant in Laurel. I think it's either Kingsway or Queensway. It's an African restaurant, and I went in to get my dish, and the lady was like, "Are you gonna wait for it?" I was like, "I'm gonna wait for it," and she said, "Okay, because good food is worth the wait." I said, "Okay." So that was her way of saying that it's gonna take a little bit of time. She said, "Good food's not quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And good opportunities aren't quick either, right?" How many proposals did you had to put in before you actually got an award?
Oh my God. When I look at our proposal collateral, we use ShareSync to store our stuff, and I look at stuff from 2012 and 2011. I just chuckle. We right now, because we're more strategic, and by the way, knowing your lane, it takes time. It took me years to finally settle in these 3 lines of business, because I was at first all over the place, because you're trying to get work and
Right.
keep the lights on. But right now, we average about, maybe, if you include sources sought response, because that's a sweet spot for me. We do that. We do 10 to 11 every single month. And
Wow.
that's not easy.
Right.
That is not easy.
Because
Most
you don't have a huge staff, right?
No,
So
no.
what's your process?
So my process is that we have proposal templates. First and foremost, we vet the opportunity. we look at it, does it fall within our 3 core areas? Then we look at the agency. Do we know the work? Do we know their program? Where can we add value? What is it that we can bring to the table that's different? So if it's anything education, I'm all over it. So we just recently submitted a bid to DoDEA for professional learning for their educators. We didn't win it, but it was a great experience for us, and we ended up amassing over a dozen experts who do professional learning for military families. So it was a different spot for us because it was for military. You know, DoDEA is the largest school district in the country,
Right.
and they serve military families, CONUS and no-CONUS. So we'll challenge ourselves like that every once in a while. So we do. I mean, so if you include sausage sorts, I would say we average about 7, 8 every month. So if you do the math, in terms of proposals, a lot of times we have tracked that work. We've responded to the RFI. We've built a team around it. So when the proposal comes, it's not too much of a heavy lift. So again, people's your capture strategy is going to be different. Some people have those relationships where they know about the work and they know people on the inside. We don't have people on the inside, so we just rely a lot on sources or market research. We respond. We're quick. That's one thing about us. We're very responsive. If you send us an email, we'll respond right away, let you know we're working on it. We'll send it before the due dates. We are responsive because we're always ready. You know, everything is always ready. We're not just now going to go try to find how we're going to write the sources. So we've been doing it for 11 years. Right. So we're ready to go. We're not just trying to find out how to do a capability briefing. We've been doing it, and we keep revamping and keep improving as we learn, as we make mistakes, we adjust and we keep improving. So yeah, I would say between 7 to 8. And I want to encourage you, especially if you don't have those connections on the inside, sources, sorts, RFIs. Yes, it's a lot of work. Yes, it's tedious work, but that's how you get your introduction into the agencies.
Something else that I love that you say, because sources sought are key, and the sources sought is a major driver that really helps us to determine whether a contract is going to go unrestricted or if it's going to go restricted, small business set aside. So I love that you brought up the importance of sources sought. But what I also want to hone in on is a lot of times the feedback that you get from proposals is invaluable. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, we were just talking about this in a small business group, and I say a lot of us focus on market research, but a lot of us should also be focused on the feedback that we get from debriefings, right? Because the debriefings can tell us a lot, right? Because imagine if you didn't get debriefings, how long would it have taken you to get the pricing right, and how long would it have taken you to really craft your proposal? So if just shortly, could you kind of tell us a little bit about why the feedback from proposals and the debriefings are important?
They're really important because, again, remember, you have to, in order to achieve mastery, you have to practice. So your first few proposals are going to be practice, and the purpose of practice is for you to learn where your blind spots are, where your weaknesses are, and your areas of improvement are. I will say that you don't always get that. You don't always get that opportunity, because sometimes for some of the proposals, if it's below a certain amount, the contracting officer is not required to give you a debrief. But we always ask, and we noticed, where we were having gaps is in pricing. Another area we're having gaps is in having the right subject matter experts. For the type of work that we do, agencies want to work with people who are known in that program, people who already, are respected in that field or that area. And so that's another thing that I learned through feedback from proposals, is that the resumes that we were submitting were not resumes that was resonating. I didn't mean to rhyme, but the resumes were not resonating. So that let me know that I needed to make investments in my bench, in my subject matter experts. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones who are going to be performing this work. And if the program feels comfortable with this person, then they will award the contract to the company. So that's a big feedback that I've gotten too. But you just have to ask. they're not just going to automatically give you the debrief. As a small business, you have to take initiative, you have to ask. And if they say, well, we can't give you an oral debrief, ask for a written one.
Right.
And you'll see where there were holes in your technical proposal or where you scored low, and you can work on those things. And it's a process. It's a gradual. I mean, we're still improving and we're still learning and we're still, still trying to get better.
And the sources, SALT notices, thanks, America, can be found on sam.gov. And the RFIs, if you record, so GSA, their sources, they have source assaults too, but they're considered RFIs mostly, that are on GSA schedule. And you can find that once you're registered in GSA schedule. How does that work, Maria?
Yes, so on eBuy, once you have a schedule, a multiple award schedule, MAS, then you can get access to eBuy. That's where they post all the requests for quotes and they post the source assaults and the RFIs. So another thing too is, how do you know who your customer is? Well, who's requesting for the work that you do? So I remember old BD days, we used to tell people to go to USA Spending and search the spending and then track opportunities for 24 months, but I don't believe in any of that anymore because things are changing so fast. You can track an expiring contract that's expiring 2 years from now, and in 2 years from now, that work may not even exist anymore. So I think a better strategy is to have a pulse on what the needs are in the moment. So really forecasting, looking at trends, looking at potential needs, that's a little bit more advanced business analytics and business intelligence, and having a pulse. And that's where the sources sorts can tell you, because they're asking for that because that's what there is a need right now. So the RFIs and the sources sort can kind of give you a pulse as to where the needs are and where the current trends are going. And people don't like to respond to them because it's like, oh, this is not even an RFP, it's a waste of my time. We never hear anything back, da 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 da. But yes, that can happen, but it's a cost of doing business. But you still get a lot of that market intelligence from at least looking at the sources. So sometimes we pull sources and RFIs, we know we're not going to respond, but we read them in detail, we discuss it because it tells us what the needs are and what potential other needs may arise as a result of this new work that's being done in that agency.
And what I love about what you're saying is, people don't realize sometimes that I can't do my job unless you do your job. And what do you mean by that, Calvin? It means that I can't advocate for you if you don't respond. Because what they'll do is they'll take the responses that they get, and if there's no small businesses, they're going to write a report to me and say, Calvin, no small businesses responded. Now, being a troublemaker I usually push back just because that's who I am. And my team is probably chuckling right now because they know that's part of my advocacy work. But if there is no respondents, then it's hard for me to say, let's make this a small business set aside. Because they're going to look at me and they're going to be like, why? Like, nobody said they can do it. It matters that you respond. It matters because it helps us to advocate for you.
Yeah, Calvin, I cannot make this up. I have to show it to you. I just got an email from EPA about an RFI that we responded to, and now they're calling us for a capabilities briefing.
There it is.
I can't make it up.
The proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding. Look, I mean, this is really helpful because a lot of people sometimes people get frustrated with the process.
It's very frustrating. And I do want to say that I want to acknowledge to the small businesses here that this is hard. I mean, I know you see me here just rolling this stuff out of my tongue. Well, it's blood, sweat, and tears. I'm telling you, it's times where I've sat down and literally cried in my office for like 10, 15 minutes and wipe my eyes off and then jump on a meeting after that, because I'm even wondering, like, will I ever break through? It is hard. And you hire people, they can't do it. They don't care. They just want a paycheck sometimes. Right. And it's like it still falls back on you as the business owner, because you're the one who wears the shoes. You're the one who has the responsibility. You're the one who has to cut that check every 2 weeks for your payroll. So it is hard. It's mentally and emotionally draining. to keep writing proposals over and sources, and sometimes you don't hear back and you email and they're not, some contracting officers, I had someone, I was always going with the back and forth with her, and I had to tell myself, Maria, this is not what you're supposed to be doing. She literally told me she would not give me any more information about the solicitation, and she's not required to respond back to my sources sought because it will be unfair advantage. I mean, we go through a lot as small businesses, but the question you always have to keep in your mind is, for the sake of what? What is your why?
Yeah.
What is your why? So that why is going to motivate you when you're down, when you feel like, I don't think I can do it. Your why is going to motivate you when you're being rejected. Again, you wrote this proposal and you poured your all into it. The thing that used to ache me the most is, especially when we would partner with other businesses and they've put in resources and now we've written this proposal and we didn't win. I would be so embarrassed to send that email that it was an unsuccessful bid, because I felt like my credibility was on the line because I sold it to them to join us and partner, and now we didn't win. So you have to work through all those things, those mental blocks, those mindset things that, listen, I'm in it to win it, and I'm going to keep going.
So thanks for being very transparent, because I tell people all the time that it's not easy, right? There's no silver bullet, as they say. A lot of times it's happenstance. It's putting yourself out there. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of disappointment, right? And I like what you said, blood, sweat, and tears, right? There are probably a lot of times where small business owners are very disappointed with the lack of, I'll say, empathy or support that you might get from our side, but just to stay encouraged. So one more question that I want to ask you is, on that first contract, were you the only staff member? How did you staff that first contract?
Yeah, so because it was a training contract, most of all the training work is 1099, because trainers, consultants, coaches mainly work as 1099. So I already had a bench, and the trainer that I proposed was who did the training, but we did all the project management. So we have all the project management, the scheduling, the getting the materials to the customer, the kickoff meeting, and making sure everything goes smoothly that day. Our corporate staff, I have Erica, who's our client services manager, and she's my wing woman, and she has been doing that for all of our training and all of our contracts. So, but the consultant was the one who actually delivered the class. Now, if it's something that is in my wheelhouse, I love to train. So I've actually gone out and done trainings. But for project based, we typically will have a project manager and then a team of FTEs.
Very good. Very good. And just like that, our time is up.
Oh my God, it went by so fast.
It goes by so fast, and it's like, we're sitting across the table having a cup of tea, and just chatting. I tell you, your story is beautiful for so many ways. I always say that every time I do these interviews, I learn something new about what it is. And so you are our first women-owned small business, and it's very intentional that we wanted to have a woman-owned small business because, as a mother, as a leader in your family, as support, a wife, you're doing it all, right? And that I will tell you, I admire you from the far, not only because you can cook some jollof rice, and I'm trying
Listen,
to get
Kyle, you are really pressing on this jollof rice situation here. I've gotten the message. I got you. Don't worry about it. I got you. I've gotten the message.
Look, you can tell I love food, and my team will laugh because.
Don't worry, I got you, and I can cook too, so I got you.
All right, look, I'm gonna come over with my Tupperware, okay?
I will.
But look, I think this is so important because so many people are either I always say they're standing at the edge and they just need to jump off, right? But it might be the families, that they're thinking about. It might be the fear of leaving a job that might be holding them back. And hearing your story of perseverance, your faith, your diligence, and you believing in yourself and this business is really what made you jump off and look where you are now, on your 2 feet, and doing so well. So we really thank you so much for being here. We're probably going to do a round 2, right, Samira?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Thank
So
you.
we're
Thank you
definitely
so
going to
much
do
for the
we're definitely
opportunity.
going
I'm
to do
really
a round 2.
humbled and honored. Thank you all so much. Thank you everyone for joining today. And, let's keep supporting each other, small businesses. We need to collaborate, work together, support each other, because it's not an easy journey. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Cal. Appreciate this. Thank you, Samira.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Maria.
Marcella.
Samir, do you have
Javette,
any
the
last
entire
words
team.
before we close out?
No, I do not. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Maria. Great insight for all the small businesses that attended today. Hopefully, you have taken valuable lessons from Maria. And please join us for future conversations with Cal. Thank you
Is it
and have
okay
a
if
great
I put
afternoon.
my email in the chat box? Some people had requested connecting with me. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Please feel free. And Maria, on behalf of the Department of Education, thank you so much. And we look forward to our next discussion on with Conversations with Cal.
You are very welcome. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm very grateful and honored and humbled. Have a great evening, everybody.
See ya.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.